Well, welcome back to DIY Willie, and we're taking a look at the Samurai again. It seems that after we put the exhaust in, took it for a drive, it started running bad again, and when I got it home and parked it, there was a lot of fuel in the driveway. So I went around looking for leaks, and I couldn't see any. And after further investigation, I saw that it was coming out around the timing belt cover. The timing belt cover has two parts to it, and I took the top half off and I started it and I was watching it run, and sure enough, the diesel fuel's coming out of the front shaft bearing seal on the fuel pump. So that's not something I really want to tackle. So the best solution is just to replace the pump. I ordered a rebuilt, and it came in, so we'll get a look at that. And I got to start taking this apart. I got to drain the radiator again, and I've got to take the timing belt off. I got to take all the accessories off to get to the lower timing cover, where I can remove the timing belt and first of all time the engine, then remove the timing belt and remove the fuel pump, all the injector lines, all that stuff like that. The new pump came with a few pieces missing that I'll take off of this pump. It's missing the banjo fittings for the fuel inlet and the fuel outlet, and this little rubber piece here, and of course the bracket for the throttle cable. So like I said, I gotta drain the radiator, take the radiator out. I've got to take the alternator and power steering accessories off, take the lower pulleys off, time the engine again, remove the timing belt, and that will give me access to the fuel pump or injector pump here. So it's not an easy project. It's very time consuming. You guys have seen me do it before, but it's something I've got to do it again. So yeah, let's take a look at that new pump. So like I said, this is a rebuild pump, and I can see the new parts that were put in it, you know, and it's got some markings on it. So I can only assume that, you know, it's gonna work out for me. You know, I mean, it's kind of dirty still, but I can see the new parts. And this is where, let me put this down. Okay, this is where my pump is leaking, is this seal right here. So my pump, when I had it rebuilt the last time, had a lot of play in this shaft, and they tried to replace the bearing. I guess they weren't successful, maybe, or maybe they did it incorrectly or something. But this is where the fuel's leaking, on this right here. So you can see this is a new seal, new springs, you know, it's cleaned up. It's got the new banjo fitting here for the turbo inlet. This is where the return banjo goes, and the supply banjo right here, and that little rubber piece off the vent off the top right here. And it's got new injector connections here on the manifold. And yeah, let's get started and get that ready to drain and get all the interferences removed. We can get this new pump in. So we have the front grill out, the oil cooler tucked down out of the way, the radiator's out. Now it's time to take the accessory drive belts off, the alternator belt, power steering belt, and then the pulleys, the accessory drive pulleys. This is the water pump pulley, this has got to come off, and then these four here on the crankshaft pulley. So these bolts are getting pretty worn out. I'm going to try to find some replacements online, or maybe at the Volkswagen dealer, or I don't know. I got to try to find some new ones. And wow, it looks like my harmonic balancer is a little bit ate up too. Maybe that would help solve some of the vibrations. But anyway, once I get all that off, then I have to take the valve cover off. And with the valve cover off, I'll be able to rotate it, the engine, to get top dead center and time the engine. I can put the cam block in, I can put the fuel pump block in, I can loosen the tensioner and remove the belt. Well, once I remove the cover anyway. And then once the belt's removed, I can take off the pulley for the fuel pump. And then I can start taking off all the injector lines and the hoses, get it all disconnected out of the way to remove the injector pump. So it's not a hard job, it's just very time consuming, and well, I don't have a lot of time, so I only get a few hours a day to work. And this is it. I'm almost at the end of it now before I have to get ready to go to work, my real job. So anyway, yeah, that's where we're at so far, and I'll keep on going. I gotta get this off, get this hose out of the way. Yeah, I'll keep going. With all the accessory drive pulleys off and the lower timing belt cover off, I've already loosened the tensioner and the belt is loose now. The pulley bolts are a number 6, like Allen. See if you can see that right there. These are pretty shot, they're pretty worn out. I'm trying to order some new ones right now. For the water pump, it's the same thing. The pulley belt, or the pulley, excuse me, for the water pump, it's the same thing. The pulley bolts are the number 6, along with the one lower timing belt cover bolt. I don't know why they did that, but for some reason they did. So now I got to get this gear off. This gear is not it's a tapered shaft, so it just kind of compression fits on there, and there's a little hole in the back. There's a little hole in the back right there that you can stick either a Phillips screwdriver or a punch in, and just tap it with the hammer, and that'll knock the sprocket free. Yeah, we'll do that right now. Okay, I just have a simple screwdriver. Put it in the hole and give it a tap. Like that. Now the sprocket gear is loose, and we can take the big bolt out and remove the belt. Just like that. Belt comes off. I'll set the gear aside. Belt comes off. This belt was new, but I'm looking around and I see some weird things going on with it. You know, well, it's funny, I don't see them now, but I saw them when it was on the car. Like the edges right here. See how they're fraying? I don't know what's going on there. This was a Gates belt. It should be a good belt. But you know what? For as cheap as they are, it's cheap insurance just to get another one and put a new one on. That way I know that the engine is going to be good to go. So here's a look at that tapered shaft. It's just press fit. There's no key to it and nothing. It's just press fit on, and the bolt torque's, I think, like 38 foot-pounds or something. I'll get the exact torque specs when I go to put it back together, because I'll definitely have to torque it. It might be 56 foot-pounds. But anyway, like I said, I'll get the torque specs when I go to put it back on. The engine is already at top dead center. The exhaust and intake lobes are pointed up, and it's flat across the top. You can see that right there. I have a mark that goes here to this bowl here. That tells me top dead center on the crank. And the pulley, the pump, is right here. That pin is holding that in. Also, it has a mark here. This line has to match this when it's on there. So when you put the belt on, you kind of have to force it over like that to make sure that the line is right. Now, when we take the pump off, we're also going to have to re-time the pump. So I have the kit to do that. Not very good at it, but I do it and it works. This one, every time I've taken it off, it's got a center punch mark that shows. It's got a center punch mark right there that's marked here on the timing belt cover, and I know that if I put that center punch mark on that mark, that it's in time. So it's always a good idea to kind of give you some reference marks like that, and when you're taking stuff off that it involves the timing of the engine. So yeah, next step is go ahead and get this one off. This one's a little more difficult because it does have a key on it, but I'll get this off, then we'll start taking the injector lines off and the fuel inlet and outlet lines, and of course the throttle cable, and I'll get ready to put the new pump on. So it's like day 2 of putting the new injection pump on. I've got it in, I've got the timing belt on and the engine timed. The belt is proper tension. It should be able to bend at a 45 degree like that. I used my injection pump timing kit to get it where it needs to be for timing. And yeah, because you have to, let me explain that. I used my injection pump timing kit to time the pump with the top dead center and the cam. It's a separate timing from the rest of the engine. This is the mechanical timing from the valves, the cam, the valves, and the crank. And this is the injection pump, like the timing you would have on a distributor. I want to go ahead and put the fuel rails in, and then I'll have to do the rest of the final connections electrically and the hoses. I've got to put the banjo fittings in, and the throttle cable plate that goes in, and then I'm going to have to prime it, get the fuel, use my vacuum pump to pull the fuel around, make sure I fill the pump full of fuel, and hook up my remote start and go ahead and tighten these up, tighten up the 4 injector rails, and then pump the engine over and loosen each one up until I start getting fuel out the top. That'll be bleeding the rail to the injectors, and then after that the engine should run. And once we get it running, you know, it's going to stumble a little bit until it clears out all the air out of the injectors, and we'll be good to go. I'll keep our fingers crossed. Then after that, once the engine's running, well, I'll put the radiator back in and all the hoses back up and fill it full of coolant. Oh, I forgot, I've also got to put all the accessory drive back together. And yeah, so it's good. And I'm not filming all of this. You've seen this in other videos of mine, and well, I don't have much time to work, so I got to work as fast as I can. And sometimes that means I'm not filming everything. Anyway, here we go. Okay, so that's pretty much all of the engine work except for the cooling system. I've got the inlet and return lines in, I've got my throttle in, I've got to do some adjustment on the throttle. It's too tight. I need to, the adjustment's at the pedal. So I'll just loosen it up a little bit. I kind of got all the fittings on, the turbo line. This is just in here right now so it doesn't spit out oil. Timing belt is clear, battery is hooked up. We're gonna give it a start. I've already primed it up a little bit, and I know we'll have to crack the injectors and let the air out of the injectors once we start pumping fuel. The injection pump is in, the radiator's back in. You guys have seen me put all this in my other videos. It's timed, the engine's timed. I mean, everything's adjusted, hooked up, and completed. And I must say, it runs amazing. It runs so much better than that other injector pump ever did. This pump was built by a different company out of Monroe, North Carolina, called Hans Auto Parts, and the shipping was fast. They're built to order, and well, it's good. It's way better than the other pump I had. The other pump when I first got it was modified for performance. Fuel was turned up. There's some things that go on inside that, you know, I don't really know anything about. I don't want to talk about that. Turn them up for performance. And I noticed this engine now doesn't quite accelerate as it did, but that's okay. You know, I'm not out for performance. I'm just out for a good running engine. So yeah, let's start it up and check it out. I'll put you over here. That is the best and smoothest this engine has ever ran. Even the smoke is like non-existent. I do have blow-by. I can see it coming out of the filter, but that's fine. It's running, it's drivable. Sounds good. So there you go. It's running, and I'm really happy. I wanted to have this back on the road so bad. It's really been off the road for out of commission for maybe, I don't know, 2 years, year and a half, something like that. And wow, it's going good now. I got to give props to Hans Auto Parts for that great pump, man. It's really good. I really like it. I just can't explain enough how much I like it. It engine runs and sounds amazing. So yeah, it is a little slow off the line now. It's more like a stock VW. Before, the other pump was, like I said, was modified for performance, a little more fuel, and you know, it got out of its way a little easier. You know, it could travel on the freeway at 70 miles an hour. I really doubt it's going to do that this time. I haven't taken it on the freeway yet since it's running again, but I've just driven it around locally here, kind of get the idea, feel, and how well it is, if it's going to have any more oil leaks, if the fuel pump is going to leak anywhere, and so far so good. So it doesn't accelerate quick, and it takes a little while to get up to speed. So what I have a transfer case that right now it's got the stock transfer case in it, and it was fine when it had the diesel that was little, you know, the performance pump in it, because the engine ran a little stronger and you know, accelerated a little quicker. This one accelerates slowly, and I'm going to leave it like that, I think, because it's running so good. I don't want to mess with it. But I have the stock transfer case in here right now, and with these 31s, it definitely is a work for the engine. So what I'm thinking about doing, in my back shed back there, my project storage, I have a 4:9:1 transfer case. It's re-geared, and it was re-geared to compensate for the 31 tires with the gas engine in it. So with the diesel engine, with the other pump, that 4:9:1 ratio was just too much, and it would accelerate too fast, and for the freeway, the engine RPM was too high. So I'm thinking about putting that 4:9:1 in, and that will give it more acceleration off the line with this pump, and make it accelerate a little quicker, but it doesn't have as much top end speed. So I'm giving up some performance and speed for reliability. I'd much rather have the reliability and be able to use the Samurai again. So yeah, I think I'll do that. My next project for the Samurai will be swapping out the transfer case to the 4:9:1 ratio transfer case and putting the stock away in my shed, and using the other transfer case that will re-gear the engine more for these tires. So that'll get me around town easier, but it won't be traveling 70 miles an hour on the freeway anymore. It'll probably top out at about 60 or maybe 55. So that'll be the next project. I think that'll be a good one. Make it run a whole lot better, and oh man, I'm happy. I'm happy it's running. So yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. Give it a like, big thumbs up, and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. And come back to DIY Willie. Well, we're working on great things like this Samurai, the Frontier next to me, the Silverado, the mini bike. Oh, I do have another mini bike that came in a box, and I'll be unboxing that one soon and putting the build on it. That one's I think I'm going to run the 79cc and play around with the gearing a little bit. So look forward to that. Come back to the channel so you can catch on that video when it comes out. So yeah, thank you. See you next time.